Welcome everyone to the November 12th City Council meeting here on an unusual day and in an unusual place, but we're here. Welcome to everyone. This is our first meeting after Veterans Day, so we're going to start out with a pledge, and before I call people up to lead us in the pledge, I want to read this. The following is an excerpt from President Obama's Veterans Day Proclamation. Our veterans are part of an unbroken chain of men and women who have served our country with honor and distinction. On Veterans Day, we show them our deepest thanks. Their sacrifices have helped secure more than 2 centuries of American progress, and their legacy affirms that no matter what confronts us or what trials we face, there is no challenge we cannot overcome, and our best days are still ahead. On days like this, we are called to reflect on immeasurable burdens that have been borne by so few. We pay tribute to our wounded, our missing, our fallen, and their families, men and women who have known the true cost of conflict and deserve our deepest respect now and forever. We also remember that our commitments to those who have served are commitments we must honor, not only on Veterans Day, but every day. As we do so, let us reaffirm our promise that when our troops finish their tours of duty, they come home to an America that gives them the benefits they have earned, the care they deserve, and the fullest opportunity to keep their families strong and our country moving forward. Leading the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, we are honored to have representatives from the Army, Navy, and Coast Guard, and they are veterans and staff from St. Vincent de Paul's Veterans in Progress program. This 4-year-old initiative helps formerly homeless veterans find employment and training. Each year, the VIP program serves approximately 100 homeless veterans with an 84% success rate of finding them jobs in the community. Awesome. So I am going to read the names of the participants, and then I'll call them to the front of the room. So we have Randy Merritt, who's in the Army, Dennis Holycore, who is in the Navy, Justin Langlos, who is in the Army, Jeff Strickland, who is in the Coast Guard, Harold McCain, who is in the Navy, Christopher Douglas in the Navy, Larry Sen in the Navy, Dennis Foley in the Army. I'd like to welcome them to the front of the room and ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And let's give them a hand while they come up. Anytime you're ready. Start.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, gentlemen.
So much appreciate you being here. Thank you very, very much.
Where were the Marines?
On the 4th. Yeah.
Well, there's...
Next on our agenda is the public forum. And I'm supposed to announce that there will be no regular council meeting and therefore no public forum on November 25th. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those issues which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. We have with us this evening 28 people signed up to speak. First up is Gordon Levitt, followed by Nicholas Fox.
Good evening. My name is Gordon Levitt, and I'm a current resident of Ward 3. On Sunday night, local youth began working on a prominent mural at Arriving by Bike on 27th and Willamette. We hope to complete the mural by the end of this month and encourage all of you to stop by and observe the progress. Given that many scientists believe that we have entered a new ecological epoch due to human impacts, the mural will depict the transformed planetary system that today's youth will inherit. While some of these changes are difficult to reverse, the mural will demonstrate that youth trust their leaders to lead a transition away from conventional, status quo approaches to today's environmental challenges and toward innovative, sustainable solutions. The mural will remain as a testament to the commitment of Eugene's youth to a sustainable future. Yesterday, another round of global negotiations on the international response to climate change began in Warsaw, Poland. The negotiations quickly became emotional when Yeb Sano, the chief negotiator of the Philippines delegation, cried as he pledged to not eat during the 2-week conference unless substantial progress is made to address the effects of climate change. As you may know, the Philippines were recently hit by Super Typhoon Haiyan, which may have been the strongest tropical cyclone in recorded history. This traumatic event is a strong reminder that we must do what we can to address climate change right now, and that we must continue planning for what may be a very different and difficult future. As we have mentioned before, we appreciate the dedicated efforts of Eugene's government to address climate change, including the Council's pending discussion of fossil fuel divestment. We believe that the goals that the City Council approved in the 2010 Climate and Energy Action Plan were visionary and groundbreaking. Progress has been made on these goals, but we must ensure that action continues and that Eugene remains at the forefront of innovative planning for climate protection and recovery. We owe it to Eugene's youth to show them that the sustainable future that they are envisioning on 27th and Willamette is possible and that we care about making substantial progress now. Tonight, local youth and our Children's Trust are presenting a climate recovery ordinance for your consideration. I urge the mayor and city manager to schedule a council work session as soon as possible to address the youth's concerns. Thank you.
I'm going to pause for just a sec. Oops. They're presenting.
Oh,
Got it.
watch out for the microphone.
Okay. Watch out for the wires. Whoop. Thank you.
Thank you. You've been presenting.
Nicholas Fox is up next, but I would also like to, on the part of the Eugene City Council, to express our deep sympathy for the folks in the Philippines and what they're going through. They're going to have to come and retrieve their speaking points from Nicholas? Somebody come up with Nicholas? Right there. Right there. I know it's different than last time, huh?
I right here.
You got to just pull up a chair and or stand, whichever you want.
Greetings, City Council. My name is Nicholas Fox. I'm back from 2 weeks. I am a second grader in Eugene, and I am really concerned about global warming. I try my hardest to stop climate change, and I hope everybody else will try their hardest too. Please stop climate change in order to have many safe organisms on this planet. I hope many people are working to stop global warming. More people than those that vote for coal, fracking, oil, gas, and nuclear. I ask you to please take action on the suggested ordinance that we gave you to cut carbon pollution. I will be back to testify again in a few weeks. Thank you.
No, honestly, we don't clap, but I think you can do this if you want to show them that you, yeah, right. And the reason I wanted to tell you why we don't clap is because our city council meetings are supposed to be a place that no matter what your viewpoint is, it's a safe place for you to be. So we ask people not to clap or boo or talk out or any of those things, just so you understand. So Julia Olson is up next, and followed by Teo Olson.
Good evening, I'm Julia Olson. I'm a resident of Eugene. And I wanted to let you all know that today, also in honor of Veterans Day yesterday, a general, a vice admiral, and a rear admiral who served the United States for decades filed an amicus curiae brief, a friend of the court brief, in the U.S. Court of Appeals in the D.C. Circuit. And the reason they filed this brief was to support young people who have sued the federal government for failing to reduce our carbon emissions at the scale that's needed to reverse climate change. And in this brief, they detailed the national security threats that climate change poses to our country. And they also describe the opportunity that it creates to really do something about it. This brief is on our Children's Trust website, and I encourage you to read it. It's a really amazing story, and everybody should take a look at it. I also wanted to just take a moment to also reflect on what's happening in the Philippines right now with the typhoons that are unlike anything they've seen before. And I have friends who are in the Philippines who are affected by this right now. And this is all part of the story of climate change. That ordinance that we submitted, we think it's a really great ordinance, and one of the things I think you'll like about it is that it asks you to formally adopt by law the goals that the City Council has already set for itself unanimously. And these goals are important, but they're not legally binding. And it's very important that we create rules that we can abide by and that the community can depend upon. So thank you very much.
Gail Olson is next, followed by Maggie and Sahara.
Hello, my name is Teo Corber Frost Olson. I live in Eugene, Oregon. I'm 9 years old and in 4th grade. On Sunday night, we started to draw the outline of a mural on the side of arriving by bike on Willamette and 27th Street. This Thursday, we are going to start painting inside of the outline. The purpose of the mural is to show people how climate change is occurring and how we can make a difference. Last night, me and my class went on a field trip to watch salmon spawn, and if climate change gets any worse, that won't be able to happen. Tonight, we will be giving you the ordinance for climate recovery, and as soon as possible, put climate change on the agenda. Thank you.
Maggie and Sahara are next, followed by Makita.
Hi, my name is Sahara. And hi, my name is Maggie. We are 4th graders at the Village School, which is right behind Willamette Street and 29th Avenue. We also both live a few blocks away from the Willamette Street. We use lots of stores on that street. The bank, the bowling alley, and even our dentist is on Willamette Street. We saw in the newspaper the city's different choices for fixing Willamette Street between 24th and 29th Avenues. We think alternative 3 is the best choice because it makes room for cars and bikes and people who want to walk. Sometimes we walk to the grocery store, sometimes we drive, but we don't ride our bikes because there are no bike lanes, and it isn't safe for us. It would be better to bike because it creates less pollution. The City of Eugene should support the bike lanes and other actions that protect us and our environment. We want the city to plan for our future. Please listen to us and other youth. We trust you. If there are bike lanes on Willamette Street, more people would bike, and we should encourage more people to bike instead of drive because it's fun, makes less pollution, and is good exercise, so people would be healthier. Bike lanes would also help drivers slow down, which would make the street safer for everyone. We like Willamette Street a lot because there are nice people living in the neighborhood, and there are nice places to go. Thank you.
Amma Makaita? You'll correct me about how you pronounce it, right, Amma?
Hi, my name is Emma.
Emma, thank you.
I'm 10 years old and live in Eugene. I'm here to talk about global warming. I want to know that my great-grandkids will see the beautiful land we have here now. But if global warming does not stop soon, my great-grandkids might not see the world we see now. And I'm here to tell you some ways we could reduce the amount of fuels we use every day. We should have solar-powered cars and more no-driving days. There should be cleanups where if you help, you get entered into a raffle to win bikes so you can drive less. And more programs to get kids involved. And if we do this, we can make a change, and a big one too. We need to have more daytime bike races. Then people might start liking biking more. Then possibly give up on cars. Thank you for your time.
Ooh. Next up is Kira. Kira? Yep. Followed by Pete Frost.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Kira Gunther, and I'm 20 years old and an LCC student in Environmental Studies. In my young life and doing activist work, I've come to understand the greatest gap between people and real change is a lack of understanding or validation of the issue at hand. In Bio 101, we discuss the complementary systems of aerobic respiration and photosynthesis. The cycling of carbon dioxide and oxygen perpetuates life. And my instructor asked if anyone knew the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration this year measured CO2 levels around 400 parts per million. CO2 concentrations haven't been that high in over 15 million years, and top climatologists project that the atmospheric CO2 must return to 350 parts per million by the end of this century to avoid an acceleration in the heating of our planet, the melting of ice and the permafrost, and rising of sea levels that would disrupt human and natural systems. In a lab for this same biology course, we were given probes that measure CO2 concentrations in the air. In my classroom that morning, the probe fluctuated between 380 and 400 parts per million. My lab partner proceeded to inform me that CO2 is good for plants and therefore would increase agriculture and food production. What he and so many people do not understand is that plants can only take up so much CO2 and are limited by other necessary nutrients. The CO2 does and will continue to heat our atmosphere. Unless directly involved, people do not understand the effects of convenience to consume. I can put up posters, canvass with petitions, speak at city council meetings, and I can scream and yell in Congress. But we will not adjust to this changing climate fast enough without the validation and encouragement of local governments on the people they represent. People need this direction. We are bombarded by stories of destruction alongside with fluffed projections that comfort us in thinking we can continue to consume in the same ways. The science is sound, but it scares me to think about how many ordinances, laws, and meetings will have to go on in order to spark real change, and that most people still do not understand the tipping point we now stand on. I urge you, Eugene City Council, to consider the Climate Recovery Ordinance our Children's Trust has drafted and bring upon an understanding and conversation about climate change amongst your constituents. Thank you.
Keith Frost is next, followed by Candace Schreck, it looks like.
Thank you, Mayor Piercy, council members. I'm the proud father of Teo Corber Martin Frost, although he comes and speaks of his own volition. I do conservation law for a living, and on Thursday I'm going to go address the Register Guard about the fisheries up the Mackenzie and the wild fish that exist there and how important they are to many people in our community. And the context of looking at some of the things I'm going to be talking to the op-ed board about, one of the things that is of greatest concern to me is the recent study suggesting that in the next 50 years, the Mackenzie is going to drop by 40 to 50% in terms of water flow due to snowpack decline. And so I think when you are considering this ordinance, oftentimes with climate change, it seems like something very ephemeral and away from our community. You know, we don't suffer the way that Tacloban is suffering now. We don't suffer the way that some of these other communities are. But I think it's coming. And I think we have a responsibility to our kids, to our families, to our community members, to anticipate the changes and to take a stand as a community given the very real consequences of this and what's coming toward us in the very near future. If you just want to look at drinking water supplies, which the Mackenzie, of course, is the supply for our city, that's what's coming. There's going to be some real consequences. And so I'm hopeful, I'm very supportive of this ordinance and hopeful that the council will give it due consideration. Thank you.
And Schreck is up next, followed by Christina Liu.
Hello, I'm Candace Shorek, and Alan Zelenka is my city councilor. I am the newly elected president of the Eugene Jinju Sister City Committee. We have had a sister city relationship for 50 years, and in the last 12 years, there's been a very active exchange of youth ambassadors. This includes a lot of cultural information and homestays. This year we sent 4 girls, and they're fairly representative of our city, 2 from Willamette High School, 1 from Sheldon, and 1 from South. So I will let the girls tell you about their experiences, and we'd like to thank the City of Eugene for your support.
I'm so glad you're all here. Christina Liu, you're up next, followed by Yasmin Palayo.
Hello, good evening. My name is Christina Liu, and I'm from Eugene, and I attend South Eugene High School. I'm a senior this year, and I would just like to share this essay about my experience in Jinju. The 4 weeks I spent participating in the Eugene Jinju Sister City Delegation Program this summer has been a priceless experience. This trip gave me many firsts, from flying without adult supervision to eating raw stingray. Everything was exciting and refreshing. Going to South Korea opened my eyes to a completely different culture and society. Not only did I have to adapt to the new language, but also the mannerisms, such as bowing when greeting someone and using 2 hands when handing objects to others. Quite frankly, I even had trouble unlearning these habits after coming back. The people I met treated us with only kindness. Mr. Ha and Mirai were exemplary guides. Mr. Ha gave us extensive explanations and history lessons at every location, and Mirai took extra time to bring us downtown into norebangs, which are karaoke rooms, after our schedule. My host mother, although she kept apologizing that she did not know how to take care of me because she has 2 sons, took care of me like I was her own daughter. Even though she worked, she tried to show me as much of Jinju as possible, taking me out each evening and bringing me back very late at night. She drove me around at night so I could see the city lights and took me to the military training base. We even attended a wedding together, my first wedding. We all went to Usan for their family reunion. I rarely saw my host's dad because he got home very late from work, but he still stayed up at night and chatted with me, for which I'm very grateful. And of course, my host brothers were complete gentlemen, always taking the horrible backseats on long road trips and accompanying us whenever they were free. Moreover, I cannot forget the generosity and hospitality of Sarah and her family while we were in Busan and Seoul, providing everything and more for us. Korea is really dynamic in that it combines the old and the new. I could feel the modern, youthful spirit while walking through Hyundai, seeing the towering apartment buildings, and meeting the lively students at Domyeon High School. But at the same time, I witnessed the beautiful historical sites such as Jinju Castle, placed in the middle of the bustling streets, Haeinsa temples in the countryside, and the most shocking grand palace in the midst of Seoul. I got to learn many different skills like taekwondo and the traditional sword dance. The kindness of these strangers and people in the community was insurmountable as they dedicated hours to teach us and help incorporate a bit of their culture into us. Although my stay in Korea was very short, those 2 weeks were incredible and unforgettable. I hope to visit again in the near future. Even when our host brothers came to Eugene, I encountered many new things, such as visiting OHSU, seeing real mummies at the Omzi Museum, shopping in Washington Square, and waiting in Diamond Lake. Seeing the enthusiasm of our host brothers and how much they want to study in Eugene made me realize how lucky I am to live in such a nice community. I am extremely thankful for this entire experience and hope that many other students can participate in this program in future years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yasmin Palayo is next.
Hello, my name is Yasmin Palayo, and I'm from Willamette High School. I'm a junior there, and I would also like to share my experience. Even though 2 weeks seems like a short time to experience the country to its fullest, I can truly say that I completely fell in love with Korea. I had a fantastic time and experienced plenty of new things. I created memories that I will never forget, met many new people, and ate fantastic new things. And of course, I witnessed the beauty that Korea has to offer. Mr. Ha was the first new person I met in Korea, and he was absolutely fabulous. He was very sweet and caring and always had some sort of story up his sleeve. Along with that, he was very generous and incredibly informative. Another tour guide that we met next was Mire. She was also very kind and extremely funny. I could always count on her with any type of advice, and I will never forget how unbelievable her singing voice is. After those encounters with my tour guides, which I consider more like friends, I met up with my lovely host family. They were very caring with me and even called me their American daughter. They were a lot of fun to be around and always had plans for us to do. I'm greatly thankful for everything they did, and I really hope that I can meet up with them again in the future. Sarah Pyo and her family in Seoul and Busan were always relaxed and always really generous with us. Sarah and her brother were great people to be around, and though I only really met them for 3 days, I feel like I have made a long-lasting friendship. I am more than thankful to these people and others that I did not mention. Everyone I met there was very kind to me and helped me in every way I could. Even random people I met on the street would help me out. They all made this trip 1,000 times better for me. Speaking of stimulants that made my experience great, Korean food is absolutely delicious. I think I ate the most in those 2 weeks than I have ever eaten in my life. There were just so many things I wanted to try. With every new food I aid, I created a new memory not only for my taste buds, but with the people around me. The first and most prominent in my mind thing we ate was bibimbap. We all thought it would be the perfect food for our exhausted bodies, but little did we know how spicy it was. The cook even started laughing at me because I was dying from the heat, both from the food and the weather. Even though it was super spicy, it tasted great. Something I can honestly and wholeheartedly say that I did not like was the doreji stuff. They're ginseng candies. I really tried to like it and gave it a chance, but I just could not get it down my throat. I ended up giving the package we got full of doreji candy to my host family. Along with eating a lot, I spent most of my time touring around Korea. There were so many beautiful places that our group went around to, but I think my favorite has to be the palace we toured in Seoul with Sarah. The artworks along the sides of the structures were mesmerizing. That I can say for every temple we went to. I also loved going to Jinju Castle. It was a nice place to just go and hang out.
Thank you very much. Next up is Yesenia Flores, followed by Clara Reardon.
Hello, my name is Yesenia Flores. I am an 11th grader at Willamette High School here in Eugene. When I found out about this program, I was in complete shock at the fact that I actually might have a chance to go to a country that I truly have interest in. After I submitted my application, I felt anxious to find out if I was chosen to go. I had my doubts that brought me to think that I wouldn't be one of the people to go. When I received the email that notified everyone on who was given the opportunity to go to South Korea, I could not believe the results. I was filled with emotion and I could hardly think straight. At that moment, I knew I was ready to explore a different part of the world. I honestly felt like the luckiest person at that moment. I thought to myself, how many people have an opportunity like this at such a young age? I feel truly privileged to be able to participate in a program like this, and I will never be able to forget this trip. When I first arrived in Jinju, it didn't feel like I was in a different country. My brain didn't register where I was at the moment. I think the reason for this is because I've never been far from home before. I was eager to meet new people, but at the same time, I felt nervous. My first actual day in Jinju was the day when we went to our host brother's high school. It was definitely an unforgettable experience. Knowing that it was an all-boys school, I was a bit excited, to be honest. The way one of the senior classes treated us was amazing. They were clapping, yelling, and smiling nonstop. There was one kid that kept asking questions in English, and that of course brought a smile to our faces. Later that day, we went to Jinju Castle. We had no idea our host brothers and their whole class would greet us. We were definitely surprised. I really appreciated the students who gave the tour because they worked hard to tell us about Jinju Castle in English. They thought they didn't do well, but they were marvelous. Jinju Castle was beautiful and very large. The story behind some of the monuments helped me connect with the culture. The rest of my time in South Korea was an adventure. The places we went to were very interesting, and it filled my mind with more knowledge about South Korea. I clearly remember Haeinsa. The temples were huge and amazingly beautiful. The whole tour was great, and I felt greatly honored to be there. We went to see so many other places, and I feel really appreciative to the whole committee for being able to organize this for us. When we went to Busan and Seoul, I felt like I was living the high life. We were definitely spoiled, and I'm forever grateful for this. My host family was amazing. I have such a close relationship with them now, and I'm really grateful for them as well. I won't forget all the new people I became friends with for as long as I live. I want to thank the whole committee for giving me this opportunity, and I also want to thank our host families for spending time with us. Being able to explore a different part of the globe was a dream come true for me. I would encourage other young people to try this program because it changed my life and my perspective on the world around me. Again, I thank the whole committee for this amazing trip. Thank you.
Thank you. Clara Reardon is next, followed by Alex Page.
Hi, my name is Clara Reardon, and I am a junior at Sheldon High School. Being a participant in the Eugene Jinju Sister City Exchange Program 2013 was one of the best experiences of my life. It was an adventure filled with exotic spicy foods, karaoke, Buddhist temples, and hospitable people. The culture shock was intense, but it stimulated my love for travel. The freedom of international travel was exhilarating. The moment I stepped off the airplane, it felt like I was swimming through incredibly dense humidity. We met Mr. Ha right outside of the terminals, and before I knew it, we were driving through the beautiful landscape of South Korea. The landscape was much greener than I was expecting, for I was told that South Korea is a concrete jungle. The combination of modern-day architecture with traditional Buddhist temples that could be viewed from the freeway and rolling hills was picture perfect. The colors all around were rich and proud. We spent the night first at Mi Rayleigh's apartment. She had been an exchange student in the program many years ago, and I found her thirst to give back to the program to be inspiring. Her hospitality was incredible. After I thought I couldn't be treated any more like royalty, I met my host family. They were so sweet, and they sacrificed so much of their time and energy to make me as comfortable as possible. I was immediately accepted into their family, and the grandparents adopted me as one of their own grandchildren. While staying with them, I learned how contrasting our lifestyles are. In the Korean household, the parents both work, and they work hard and long hours. Unlike most jobs in America, the workers in Korea almost never get the day off. I found the same goes for the students. I was shocked by the most dramatic difference between American and Korean education systems. Korean students not only go to overnight schools, but they also go to a tutoring academy every day for study assistance. I learned that South Korean students get no more than 5 hours of sleep every night because they must stay up so late to do homework after they get home from both school and academy. It's no wonder that their education system is so praised by the rest of the world. The technology and resources at the school were also very impressive. I enjoyed having conversations with my host brother about his opinion of the education system. His vocabulary was extensive enough to have a thorough conversations about our cultures. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more impressive, we visited the Buddhist temples. The history of the temples ran rich and deep. The architecture and spiritual feel to the temples was enlightening. One of my favorite experiences of the trip was meeting a Buddhist monk at one of the temples. He was full of wisdom and had given up all of his unnecessary possessions for a life of purity. The peaceful lifestyles of the monks among the busy country of South Korea was unexpected and calming. Overall, the trip was an unforgettable experience. I'll never forget the connections and friends I made. I could never thank my host family and everyone who contributed to the trip enough. This experience expanded my knowledge of the world and gave me the challenge to be independent. It taught me to adapt to the Korean culture however I could, especially because I couldn't speak Hangul. But not knowing the language was not a struggle thanks to the kind and understanding people. I would greatly recommend this program.
Thank you very much. Next up is Alex Page, followed by Andrew Russ.
Evening. My name is Alex. I'm a resident of Eugene, and I live in the Whitaker neighborhood. I'm also a second-year planning student at the University of Oregon. I want to express my support for option 3 of the Willamette Street redesign. It's the same design that the paid consultants have recommended as well. This is being pitted as a cars versus bikes battle, and I want to say that's false. It's as false as the signs you'll see on Willamette Street that advocate for 4 lanes as being the safest option. The current configuration is the 4-lane option, and that sees 50% more crashes than normal. The people that put up those signs are ignoring the facts and intentionally misleading the public. The inclusion of bike lanes on a major commercial corridor is not something new. This is done all over the world and right here in Eugene even. Many congested cities do this, and it's something that we can do as well. The City Council is going to vote on this soon, and I want to say that this is going to really leave a legacy, a small decision. You can either send the message that you believe in business interests, or you believe in social equity, safety, and Oregon state law. It would be really beneficial to the community and send a message, much like these kids have sent, about tackling the global problem of climate change locally. Thank you.
Andrew Russ is next, followed by Wayne Martin.
Hi, I came here today to talk about the legal fairy tale of corporate personhood that has become all too much a fact. Corporations are not people, and I think that all the activists in this country need to seriously consider overturning corporate personhood permanently. In the seminar that I had across the street from the community rights movement. I was informed that in our original formation of our nation, corporations had 30 years to exist before they were disbanded. I think if we as a people could disband all the corporations over 30 years old that have done the people any harm, I think that all the activists would be able to accomplish whatever goals the corporations would no longer be able to oppose. I'd like you to imagine if you could personify the concepts of life or change and ask them a question and get an answer. This is what my feelings tell me life and change would answer. This was asked by a 14-year-old child from Rome, Italy. If you made us, then who made you? That's a wonderful question, Luciano, because it focuses on one of the great mysteries of the universe. Nobody made me, Luciano. I am life itself. I am that which is, that which was, and that which always will be. There was never a time that I was not. You, Luciano, are the same thing. You always were, are now, and always will be. That is because you and I are one. What I am, you are. What you are, I am. We are the same thing. We are life expressing. We are that which is, being. I am the sum total of all of it, and you are the part of it now expressing itself as Luciano. Yet we are not separate from each other in any way. When you stop expressing yourself as Luciano, that is, when you do the thing that you call die, you will continue to live and express yourself as a part of me. You cannot do this, for you are a part of who I am, and there is no part of me that can ever end. And so your life will go on, Luciano, forever. You may keep the identity of Luciano after you leave your present body for as long as you wish, and you will do so for as long as it serves you. When it no longer serves you to know yourself as Luciano, you will meld into the oneness and be the part of me that has no individual identity. This melding into the oneness is what some humans have termed nirvana. It is the extinction of desire and individual consciousness. That does not sound good to me, the response comes back. One, I always want to have desires and individual consciousness. When you're one with everything, you will have no desires because you are that from which all desires spring. In a sense, desire is not desirable nor even possible, for you already are that which you would desire. Thus, desire as a yearning is eliminated from your experience. So is want and need. You become both the wanter and the wanted, the needer and the needed. In this state of total unity, you want and need nothing. This is pure bliss. It is the highest heaven. There you are in harmony with and become part of the primal vibration, the sound of Om, the call of life.
Next up is Wayne Martin, followed by Sabra Markov.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor, City Manager, please. My name is Wayne Martin. Since I don't have a full 3 minutes, I just want to compliment you on recognizing the veterans and making it last more than one day and giving us a sense that we have done well by choosing to serve. I'm a Navy Explosive Ordnance Disposal Officer serving from 67 to 71, and I make that point because everything I say and stand for regarding advocacy for the homeless directly affects the homeless veterans, the many unseen homeless veterans that we have here in Eugene. I'm here to introduce a motion, which I hope can be handed to you when I'm finished. A motion that the Council recommend a site other than the Northwest Expressway site for the rest stops. The reasons include the following. 1, lack of access for the handicapped. 2, lack of easy access for service vehicles. 3, groundwater levels that we have seen that assist flooding. And 4, the concentration of more unhoused persons in the overwhelmed already train song neighborhood. We further move that in light of the colder and wetter conditions and the increase in the number of people that are on the streets, the second site be up and running on or before December 1st. A very aggressive goal. We ask that you place this on the table at the session which will follow the comments we are now making from the floor. We thank you. I'm outside the motion now, and I wanted to mention that there is a site that actually might be recommendable, and it's off of River Road as you drive north behind the Dairy Mart. It's on the right. Something to be looked at. It's a site that I think could accommodate 15 or so people without a sense of invasion and invasiveness. It won't flood. It's got access to vehicles and to handicapped people. It's visible. In closing, I'd like to say that when the children were talking about climate change, I started to think of climate change in terms of the homeless population. We need a climate change in the perception of homeless people, and we need a climate change on the part of the people who are perceiving them as a danger to society, and I hope we can address that. Thank you so much.
Sabra Marcroft is next, followed by Rachel Sanders.
Hello, my name is Sabra Marcroft. I reside in Ward 7. First off, I wanted to speak in favor of this motion. I support it. But the main reason I came here this evening was to express my gratitude for living in a community where even people who don't agree still work together. Even people who are angry at each other still try to work together. I'm personally very grateful that people's misgivings about myself personally or other people personally don't get in the way of their vision and seeing the validity of community concerns that I might voice. Thank you all very much. I appreciate all your time, even most especially the people who are most challenged to continue to listen to people who are loud, obnoxious, and otherwise difficult. It really helps me to continue to feel welcome in this town when I see people who cannot package what they have to say in respectful tones continue to be treated with respect. Thanks again.
Rachel Sanders is next, followed by Christopher, looks like Cahoon.
Hi, my name is Rachel Sanders, and I'm a teacher at the Eugene Waldorf School. I lived in Eugene for a couple years, and I see myself living here long term. And I'm here to express my support for option 3 in the redesign of Willamette Street. The way how Willamette Street is currently is unsafe for cyclists, and cyclists are legally allowed use of one full lane if there is no bike lane or bike path immediately available. So personally, when I bike on Willamette Street, I take a full lane, and as I'm legally entitled to do, and I'm met with drivers who do really unsafe things. They'll pass really close by me and honk their horn really loudly at me and clearly don't understand that I'm legally entitled to be there and seem to think that where they need to go is more important than where I need to go and my safety. It seems really obvious to me that Eugene is a city that needs to be moving in the direction of having safe access for all people and all forms of transportation. And if the Willamette redesign did not include bike lanes, I think that would send a really unfortunate message to young people in Eugene who see that as our future. And I really hope that that can happen. Thank you.
Christopher Cahoon is next, followed by Art Bowman.
Hello. So I am a proud resident of Ward 2. My name is Christopher Cahoon. Live in Eugene, Ward 2. So I'm here to support option 3 for the South Eugene, our South Willamette project. And the reason why I'm supporting option 3 is because basically three reasons: livability, safety, and a thriving local business community in South Eugene. My family and I, we live not far from South Willamette. My wife works on South Willamette. I commute regularly on Willamette to get to my job at the federal building. My children go to school not far there. We spend most of our disposable income at businesses on South Willamette. What else? Basically, we chose where we live because of livability and safety. And a large part of that is also because our primary mode of transportation is bicycles. And it's a great area to live if you are getting around by bicycle. That said, I have nothing against cars. I have nothing against motorists. I, in fact, drive a car regularly. But the fact is the current plan, the current design of South Willamette is unsafe for motorists. It's unsafe for pedestrians and cyclists alike. It's not just one or the other, or just one group is at a disadvantage versus others. The fact is my family and I have had regularly close calls, from motorists who feel very pressured to cut across those 2 lanes of oncoming traffic when they're having to either come onto Willamette, on South Willamette, or either they're turning off of South Willamette into a business on South Willamette. And when they're worried about those cars coming behind them at high speeds, they basically aren't looking for pedestrians or cyclists in that case, or oncoming traffic. I mean, it's scary for motorists and pedestrians and cyclists. And it's scary when you have children on your back and you want to go to a business on South Willamette. So, I mean, the option 3 is safe for everyone. You have a center turn lane where motorists can feel less pressure, get into the center turn lane, whether they're merging into traffic or leaving Willamette to a business on the side street there. And people can slow down, and if there's bike lanes, motorists can expect cyclists there rather than one popping up out of nowhere, as the case may be for some motorists may not expect cyclists there right now. At any rate, that's what I want to leave you with tonight, and thanks for letting me chat with you.
Next up is Art Bowman, followed by Sue Sierra-Lupi.
Hi. I wanted to speak in favor of Reverend Martin's...
You want to introduce yourself first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Mark Bowman, First Ward. I wanted to speak in favor of Reverend Martin's resolution, but first I wanted to urge you to take all action you could in favor of climate change, because if the Willamette River sinks by 50%, it really sort of renders all the other issues you look at irrelevant. But like I said, my primary focus is the resolution that was introduced. It's important to open another camp, and it's important to do it before December 1st. I know you've actually been doing things after you've been criticized for not acting with enough haste, but it also seems like you're looking at a drastically different situation in terms of the unhoused this winter from other ones. First of all, we're looking at a harsher winter than usual. And as we all know, the Egan Center does what it can, but it's only able to take care of people for a certain number of days, nights a year, and they also have logistic problems where it's just not possible for them to open at short notice if there are sudden changes in the weather. It also appears that the mission isn't going to be able to function as a warehouse for people anymore, which has always been a huge safety valve for the city in inclement weather. They've changed their policies, and that's fine. That's their right to do as a private agency, but that also creates an additional problem for you. Like I said, a safety valve isn't going to be there. So I want to urge you to approve the other camp and do it by December 1st, because, frankly, it's a situation that looks critical. Thank you.
Sue Sierra-Lupi is next, followed by Ali Valkyrby.
Hello, my name is Sue Sierra-Lupi. My ward representative is George Brown. I am the clinic manager for Occupy Medical. We offer free medical services in the park blocks every Sunday. I'm here to talk about math as it relates to public health. Last time I was here, I begged you for a hand washing station at the park blocks, at least on Sundays, to supplement the bathroom that you have so graciously already provide. As of October 28, 2013, the deadly flu virus H1N1 has reared its ugly head in Eugene, Oregon. H1N1 multiplies geometrically. One person gets infected, then it is spread to 2, then 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. You get the idea. This is known to math nerds as the Fibonacci sequence. It is known to the medical community as a public health disaster. H1N1 can be as disabling and as deadly as it is virulent. Our resources are already spread so thin that our county can ill afford an outbreak. Please keep in mind that within the next 9 months, Lane County will be losing a minimum of 20% of our practitioners due to retirement. They are not being replaced. Who will treat these patients? Prevention is the smart money here. The happy news is that H1N1 is very preventable. Just wash your hands with soap and water. Alcohol-based cleansers are not effective against the flu. With a hand washing station, we can break the chain of infection. This means not just treating one person, it means saving 2 people, 4 people, 8, 16, 32, 64. You get the idea. A small investment in a Sunday hand washing station which will be monitored by our trained volunteer staff, will be a lifesaver for this city. An investment in public health harvests immeasurable reward. Thank you.
Allie Valkyrie is next, followed by John Monroe.
Allie Valkyrie, Ward 1. I'm here to support what Wayne has put before you. I've been advising from the very beginning that the Northwest Chambers parcel is not an ideal site. I assume that in selecting a site, criteria such as accessibility, visibility, safety, and terrain would be taken into account. But unfortunately, the only criteria city staff used in the selection process was proximity to services. And while that left you with one site that's just fine at Roosevelt and Garfield, the Northwest Chambers parcel is neither accessible, visible, or safe. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I repeat, the chamber site is inaccessible to people with disabilities, difficult to access by vehicle, isolated and out of the public eye, and is not at all ideal for camping due to the marshiness of the ground. The only place for the water to go is the access road itself, which has already become muddy, and we are only at the beginning of the rainy season. Significant work would have to go into making it safely accessible by foot, mitigate the flooding, and improving the access road enough so that vehicles as well as garbage trucks would be able to access it. Given the temporary nature and the limited funds on all sides, Nightingale Collective is not willing to attempt a rest stop at this site. Community-supported shelters is also in agreement that the site presents more challenges than it's worth, and they're not interested in running a camp at this site either. Public visibility and accessibility are absolutely crucial to the success of this project. I cannot stress that enough, and I really feel that factor has been either greatly underestimated or, frankly, completely ignored in this process. Without community support, the project will fail, and without visibility and accessibility, we don't get the community support. Occupy Eugene learned this at Alton Baker Park. The opposite is being shown at Whoville right now, where they are receiving a lot of support and is directly related to its visibility and accessibility. R2D2 in Portland, one of the main reasons they've been successful is because of their visibility and accessibility. Dignity Village in Portland, on the other hand, the only complaint I ever hear about it is that it's not a very good transitional place because it is isolated, and the community does not interact with Dignity Village because of its isolation. That is the same issue you're going to have at the Northwest Chambers parcel. There's danger in isolation, out of sight, out of mind. Bad things happen to folks in places where nobody can hear you scream. There's a population that already lives down there by the tracks. They are out of sight and out of mind for a reason. I've been down there at night. They are not nice people. Putting a camp there will displace them, will anger them, will undoubtedly create issues with folks who already consider that space to be their territory. This is a challenge that doesn't exist at any of their potential locations. Keeping that site safe and secure for both possessions and people will be more challenging there than any of the other potential locations on that list. There needs to be accountability both ways, to and from the community. You don't have that accountability at that site. You will only have that accountability in the public eye. I ask you to direct the city manager to recommend another site. The Roosevelt and Garfield site's a good one. I have no doubt that CSS will do a great job with it, but more than one site needs to happen. We are still interested in managing the other one, but absolutely not in that location. I ask you to reconsider Broadway and Hilliard, or in the alternate, consider 8th and Mill. It's crucial for this to succeed, and we're not going to take on a project that's destined to fail. Thank you.
John Monroe is next, followed by Kelsey Moore.
John Monroe in George Brown's ward. I'd like to just follow up a couple of themes that have been brought up already. I'd also like to support Martin's proposal regarding the Chambers location and trying to find a new spot. And I'd really like to touch on a point about public visibility. I think it's been well said tonight, a number of the challenges that are facing us as a result of climate change. And I think what's important about what's being done right now, and particularly with having the youth send you this message, is to keep bringing it to the public eye. The human being has an unfortunate tendency to push out things from our consciousness that make us uncomfortable. And few things make us uncomfortable as much as the prospects of not having clean food, clean air, or the prospects of becoming a completely marginalized human being in this system. I don't think we've been able to draw a clear enough picture, and I hope one day that we'll be able to do better, to really outline the long-term psychological and physical effects that people undergo when they live on the streets and are continually deprived of sleep as they are underneath the camping ban in Eugene. The long-term effects that are instigated by this are not things that simply go away once you put a person back into a home. In fact, in many instances, people that have been living on the streets for many years are incapable of sleeping well inside of homes and often find themselves back on the streets simply because they have become acclimated to that form. We need to be looking at the homeless situation in the same broad scope as we are looking at climate change. And we need to see that homelessness and the massive destabilization of our biosystem are interconnected, and that the way we tend to look at these people as non-productive and therefore not worth our time is the same way we tend to look at forests as only so much timber, or water as only so much potential fish or whatever. I think that there's a huge cultural shift, and it's been actually very interesting listening to the diversity of topics that have come up tonight, and very pleasant to hear the fact that rhetoric and ideas are continuing to flow down through the ages, and the young people are coming up and saying very important, difficult things. And I hope that we continue to approach homeless issues in Eugene with the same tenacity that this community has taken on environmental issues. But again, I'd like to stress that we're not in the middle of a problem with homelessness. We're in the middle of a crisis. And despite the development downtown, which is very nice, I live a couple blocks away, and the new businesses are great, foreclosures are continuing. People are still getting kicked out of their houses, and in fact, thanks to projects like Capstone, real estate is continuing to rise, and people are continuing to end up houseless. So we have to continue to address this as the massive issue that it is. Thank you.
Kelsey Moore is next, followed by Michael Kerrigan.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Moore, and I'm in Claire Surratt's ward. I'm here in support of option number 3 for Willamette Street, and I travel on Willamette Street, work on it, and shop at all the businesses daily. And I'm here to talk about what the change will be for us, how it will affect us. It will improve safety. I think these aren't big enough, so I'm going to pass around later. The current street has double the expected number of crashes based on similar streets, compared to similar streets. Alternative number 3 would calm traffic, eliminate erratic lane changes, and decrease collisions by as much as 47%. That's a really big one. It would be better for business. Right now, people stream by in their cars, they stream by in their bikes, they try to just walk as fast as they can. The street is not comfortable, fun, it's not a shopping district that you come and stay and experience. So better for business, better turning access with a center turn lane, better access for people to walk and bike from the neighboring businesses, or neighboring neighborhoods. 27% of Friendly Neighborhood, 50% of Amazon Neighborhood, and 47% of South University travel by non-automobile share modes. So that's something you can actually find in our statistics for the city. And also, it's the law. State law requires bike lanes when a street like Willamette is reconstructed beyond superficial ceiling. This law has been on the books since 1971 and explains why bike lanes exist in such high quantities throughout the state. People move to Eugene because, you know, one of the number one things you often hear is it's bike friendly. We love it. It's a great place to live and get around. I can drive here, I can bike here, I can walk, I can bus. That's something that we can really instill and really, what am I trying to say? We can make sure that that continues to be our legacy. Right now we have a gold standard for cycling through the League of American Bicyclists, and let's continue to have that. Let's really promote Eugene as a place that people can come and get around. Young people want to have mode choices. They want to be customers at businesses, at places that they can access. And Willamette Street has such a great opportunity for that. Thank you.
Michael Kerrigan is next, followed by Jonathan Myers.
Good evening. My name is Michael Kerrigan. I'm the shelter rights organizer with Community Alliance of Lane County. I live and work in Ward 7. I applaud those young people tonight who talked about the Sister City program. That was just awesome testimony on their part. I'm really glad the city has that program. But I'm here tonight to talk about the homeless issue, and I want to again thank Council for passing the ordinance that authorizing the establishment of the 15-person micro-homeless camps. I talked to Michael Wist today, and he assured me that city staff are taking action to establish the camps. I think that's a great thing. However, I agree with the concerns expressed by Reverend Wayne Martin and others here tonight about the Chambers Northwest Expressway site, and that a different site should be selected. I'm concerned that that site will not work, and I urge city staff to come up with a location that will definitely work. We cannot fail with these pilot projects. However, I'm mainly wanting to speak about the process for establishing the second site. We're confident that community supported shelters will do an excellent job at the Garfield site, and that the city does not have to wait to see how their operation turns out before approving the proposal for the second site. We're also confident that Nightingale will do an excellent job. Ali Valkyrie and other homeless advocates, her allies in the community, know better than anybody what has worked and what has not worked at the Whoville sites and at Opportunity Village Eugene, and this knowledge can be put to work setting up a system that works. At Calc, we are we take part in the St. Vinny's program. We now have a Conestoga and a tent. A couple has just joined our backyard, and it works great. It's an organized system. On the Calc front porch, we have different people there every single night, and the demand is growing. More and more people there. We don't have any accountability over them. We choose not to enforce a no trespass order. We don't have it in our hearts to where are they going to go. And it's really hard to keep that porch organized and safe. The backyard, however, is organized, it's clean, it's safe, it works. So that's why, we are supporting an organized site, the sites that you have approved. They have porta potties and enforceable, agreed to guidelines. Works so much better than the situation we face on the front porch at Cal. So let's move forward with 2 workable sites and get them operational by December 1st. Thank you.
Jonathan Myers is next, followed by Jordan Bailey.
Good evening, Councilman, Mayor. My name is Jonathan Myers. I live at 1750 Augusta Street in Eugene, Oregon, and I want to share with you tonight a civil grievance complaint against the University of Oregon Police Department. Okay? Under City Code 403435, the Department of Public Safety, University of Oregon, has citation authority. What is at issue is them being able to cite me for using public streets that are registered under the City of Eugene, which I pay a gas tax, property tax, to use as a public right-of-way. They are, because I'm not a full-time student, can subject me for a criminal trespass on any given street from my street on Augusta, if they patrol that area, okay? It's called expansion of exigency, what they want to produce as a probable cause. They can charge me for trespass where I live on Augusta Street or using Franklin Boulevard. I have made a notice to the mayor, Kitty Piercy, and she tells me that the City of Eugene has leased those streets to the University of Oregon to act under this City Code 4035 to give citations to non-full-time students. The Franklin Boulevard is a state highway. It's divided by Highway 126 and Highway 99 North. Since when does the City of Eugene have authority to lease a government-ran or funded highway? Okay? Furthermore, I know of other people who conduct business down in University of Oregon mentioning holy cow, and her employees cannot be using the street at Agate Street because that is leased and owned by the University of Oregon. But as taxpayers in the city of Eugene, we pay for the fire station on 17th and Agate. You think there's an injustice here? What does freedom mean to you? Each and every one of you. Okay? I'm going to leave you with this question. When are you going to wake up? Okay? I am victimized by an overreaching police authority who can subject me for trespass on public right-of-ways. It is overreaching. I can't even use the bike path. I am just absolutely livid by the conduct of the University of Oregon Police Department. They can get away with anything, steal my bicycle, assault me, charge me with anything. Under ORS 382386, they can get away with it. They have absolute immunity. This has got to stop.
Jordan Bailey is next, followed by Janet O'Brien.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Bailey, and I just want to say thank you so much for your time. I'm here to voice my support for option 3 on South Willamette Improvement Plan. As we've already seen on Willamette, we've received some new bike lanes, and as a cyclist, it has made a huge difference on my commute on Willamette Street. I have space. I feel that I have a buffer to separate myself from cars and for me and other cyclists to use, which creates a very safe and welcoming environment for both motorists and for cyclists. Unfortunately, the rest of Willamette does not have a bike lane, and therefore I choose not to use that portion of the street as part of my daily commute. I live at Ferry and 28th. And so to come here tonight, Willamette would be a great option for me to use. It would be a very direct option for me to use, but instead I choose to skirt around that area. And this is a big deal for the businesses on Willamette Street because it removes me from having access to their businesses. And this is, of course, my own personal decision, but I make this decision because I do not feel safe on Willamette Street. There are many businesses that I do frequent, and to get to them, I use back streets and go directly to those businesses. But this removes my opportunity to see announcements from local businesses. If a business such as Capella wants to offer a special on some produce, if I'm riding my bike nearby Capella, I could see this special and choose to go there and give them my business. And I think a lot of cyclists would choose to use Willamette and would have a lot more access to those businesses and increase the economic viability of Willamette Street if there were safer options for them, such as a bike lane on Willamette Street. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you choose to support option 3 on Willamette Street.
Last up is Janet O'Brien.
Stand. I think better on my head, and I don't have written notes out. Good evening. I'm a resident of the Whitaker neighborhood, Ward 7. Claire is my council member. I left some probably deemed irate messages about the camping policy, and I'm with your office too, Kitty. It's not, and I want to state this emphatically, I am not unempathetic for the homeless. Most of us are just a paycheck away from being in that situation. However, I am here tonight to address the parking issues in my area. Whitaker neighborhood is the oldest neighborhood in Eugene. A lot of those houses in that area do not have driveways, so they rely on the street parking. And of late, I've had two folks in large vehicles have opted to park right at the intersection of a street near the school district domiciles, I guess is what best way to describe it. And one, I didn't check the second one, but neither one of them are tagged with tags. And I have a huge concern with that because my home is both my home and what I would call a business. And it is a huge distraction to have this kind of parking all around in my neighborhood on streets and my neighbors being deprived of their residential parking in an effort to address those in domiciles, movable domiciles. And I would hope that the City Council would reconsider their policy. And I'm very much in support of providing a camp for folks that need a place to go. I think that's a fundamental, basic need for anyone. And B, to stop using our city streets and thoroughfares as a place of domicile or a place to live. I don't think that that's why we pay taxes to have that. And again, it's not because I'm unempathetic. I think it's a poor way to address the homeless issues. Secondly, my street happens to be earmarked. I heard a lot of conversation about the bike paths. My street not only is the most narrow street, it's not one of the broader venues into the Whitaker bike trail, but it's also been tagged as a bicycle thoroughfare. Now, when you have that narrow street competing with parking on either side and a bike lane, it leaves hardly a one-lane egress coming in and going out. It presents a very dangerous traffic hazard, not only for cars, but more importantly for the people there that are living there and people that are having to be in that area at that time. So I'm here tonight, hopefully, to have you address that. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming and close the public forum. A lot of things I wanted to say. One is I think the young people who come to talk to us on the climate issue get better every time they come. They're just fantastic, so appreciate. Please pass the word. I think they've done a really great job. And I really appreciated hearing back from our sister city exchange, because we haven't had a lot of that in the past, and I think it really helps people understand the value of the Sister City program and the friendships built across the world. They matter so much. I appreciate people coming and talking to us about their concerns about the site for the homeless, and I certainly, I know we all appreciate hearing from people their views on the Willamette Street, so thank you all for coming for that. John, I have one question. I know we used to have a hand washer that was in the CMO office. And my thought is, we use it during the week. Is there anything that we could do about making that available to the medical facility on the weekend?
I took a note to follow up on it, though. What I heard is that the alcohol-based hand washer won't solve the issue of...
You said the tissues don't work, right? But the...
Soap and water.
Soap and water.
So that one wouldn't work, but I did take a note to follow up. So.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, anybody else have?
Yeah, I too appreciate everyone who came to speak. The folks speaking about climate change, the Willamette Street design, the issues around the campsite. To the last lady who spoke, who left, I haven't checked my voicemail recently, so I'll look for her message. It is an issue in our neighborhood. A lot of folks live in vehicles parked in various parts of Whitaker, some more industrial areas, sometimes in residential areas, and it can get to be a chronic challenge for folks who are living right in that proximity. But my understanding is, John, that it's still not actually legal to car camp, but we have a program to help connect folks who are car camping with services and to try to mitigate their impact on a particular block. Is that accurate?
Yes, I don't know all the details of that, but we can sure follow up on any and all of that.
Yeah, so I will follow up with her specifically on what challenges she's facing there. Then just wanted on what Michael Kerrigan was sharing about how successful having hosting some folks on the calc site versus the ad hoc camping on the front porch. You know, I think that speaks to the value of that program, and I had suggested at one point that some of the Sleeps folks might actively recruit other faith communities that might not be participating right now in that program to have other folks give testimony on how successful that has been, and maybe recruit some more sites through some of our faith organizations in Eugene. So I just wanted to remind you of that idea. And then in terms of the challenges around the Northwest Expressway site, obviously we talked about that to some extent when we passed that motion, and I'm not prepared to take up a new motion this evening, but I do want to speak with the city manager at some point offline about how we are going to address the challenges that were raised and what will be our backup plan to come up with another site if we aren't able to mitigate those problems there. So thank you.
I guess I would simply add to that time is not our friend on this right now, so that is the challenge, is getting, if there needs to be a change, to do it quickly enough, and in any case to do it as quickly as we can, a site.
And Mayor, maybe I should just
Yep, that'd be helpful.
weigh in yes to all that. Remember what the council's intent initially was, is to identify one site, try that out, and see how that worked. What we said is yes, and why don't we get a second one available so we can start doing the work on that. And so if the first one looks like it's going to be successful, we can turn something around pretty quickly. And as we talked about last time, our intent is still to do that, and we will look at the sites, and if both of them work well, great. If one of them does have some fatal flaws, then what we said is we would come back with other possibilities. I think what we want to do is get something up running, be able to see how it works, and then kind of go from there. And so that's what our intent is still to do.
I think what people are worried about is that it takes against a while to get the first one up. December's going to be here soon. We'll be in full winter, and people have been anxious to see us try to move it along in time for this season. So, and the other thing I just wanted to respond to, Councilor Surratt, is my understanding. The legal camp program is the one that St. Vinny's oversees, that has a specific number of spots and types of housing that can be there in the oversight program. That's a legal one. The other program, as I understand it, if somebody parks in your neighborhood and they've been there more than a day or two.
I don't recall.
But it's not based on you being homeless. It's just you can't just park somewhere. And then what you're supposed to do is call the non-emergency number for the police, and then they put up notices on those cars, and if they're not moved within a certain period of time, then they get removed. But most of the time they get a notice, and they say it's time to locate somewhere else. So.
And I think sometimes St. Vincent de Paul does make contact with those folks as well.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
But I will say, if there's just out of a reality thing, it's not a matter of approval or disapproval. It's a matter of that's where folks live, and they've got to put it somewhere. And so that is just an unfortunate condition that we have now, of people having the only place that they have to have any shelter is in their vehicles. If we could find a way to ameliorate that, I think we'd all be the first in line to do that. So it is a tough situation. Okay, so we have one more thing to do today, and that is the consent calendar. Council President.
I move to approve the items of the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded. No questions. All in favor, please indicate.
Aye.
And Mike, there. Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 passes. None in opposition. So, yep. Okay, through the business of the evening. Thank you all.